We know that places can be haunted, but objects can also be haunted. And the following 3 stories are about haunted objects that had a serious effect on their surroundings. The Busby Chair. Thirsk is a market town in North Yorkshire in England, and there is an old inn in the town that once harboured a dark event. The inn once had a haunted oak chair, and whoever sat in the chair would not have long to live. The story of the death chair all started after the execution of Thomas Busby in 1702. However, there are 2 stories as to why Busby was executed. One story was that Thomas Busby and his father-in-law, Daniel Aughty, had been running a coin counterfeiting business and were also involved in other unlawful activities. Busby and Aughty had got into a violent argument where Busby then critically assaulted his father-in-law. Another story was that Busby had strangled his father-in-law after he sat in his favourite chair, after they'd argued about Thomas's wife, who was Aughty's daughter Elizabeth. Whatever story was true, Busby had taken the life of Daniel Aughty and was to be executed. It is said that authorities had arrested Busby while he was drunk in the oak chair, where he had then put a curse on it stating that whoever sat in the chair would die. Busby was hanged not far from the inn at Sunhutton Crossroads, which is now a roundabout. Apparently, Busby's ghost now haunts that area. Initially, people ignored the curse and bravely sat in the chair, believing nothing would happen to them. But it appears that Busby's curse was becoming a reality when a succession of people who sat in it did not live for very long. A roofer who sat in it lost his life after the roof he was working on collapsed. A cleaning lady had momentarily sat in the chair whilst cleaning and later passed of a brain tumour. The curse continued for many years, and during the Second World War, some Canadian airmen from the nearby airbase at Skipton-on-Swale had gone to the pub, where some of them dared each other to sit in the chair. The men who sat in the chair never returned from their bombing missions over Europe. In 1967, 2 Royal Air Force pilots sat in it, and while they were driving back to the base, crashed into a tree and lost their lives. In the 1970s, there were so many fatal accidents linked to the chair that the pub owner moved it into the basement, hoping that nobody would sit in it. There continued to be many deaths attributed to whoever sat in the chair, and the last straw came when a delivery man in the basement sat in it and an hour later had lost his life after crashing his truck. In 1978, the landlord donated it to the Thirsk Museum, and to avoid any more fatalities, the chair was ultimately hung from the ceiling of Thirsk Museum to stop anyone attempting to sit on it, and it is still there to this day. The Great Bed of Ware. On display at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London is a beautifully carved oak bed, believed to have been made in the late 16th century by a German craftsman by the name of Jonas Fosbrook. Other than being a huge bed, it is purported to be haunted. It was initially made for an inn in Ware, which is a town in Hertfordshire, England. The bed is extremely large, being 3 metres wide and weighing 641 kilograms. It is claimed that due to its width, the bed is able to accommodate 4 couples. Apparently, the bed did not remain in the same inn, but over the years it was moved between 5 inns in Ware, which were the White Hart, the George, the Crown, the Bull, and the Saracen's Head. The bed became so famous that it was even mentioned by Shakespeare in The Twelfth Night, when his character, Sir Thomas Belch, describes a sheet of paper as big enough for the bed of Ware. Lord Byron even mentioned it in his poem about the amorous adventures of Don Juan. It became even more infamous when in 1689 a bet was placed when 26 butchers and their wives agreed to spend the night in it. In 1870, the bed was bought by Henry Teal and taken to Rye House, Hoddesdon, another town in Hertfordshire, where he used it as an attraction to amuse his guests. It is not known when the haunting bed began to affect those who slept on it, but everything points to its maker. The spirit is either a snob or just prudish, where it appears that it does not like anybody of a lower class sleeping on it, nor does it like the couples getting up to any amorous activities. Whenever some disagreeable act was taking place in the bed, the spirit would try to halt their activities by pinching the couples until they stopped. The Great Bed of Ware has been a tourist attraction for many years, and some people have vandalised it by scratching their initials on the finely carved figures. The Catskills Crone. The following is a terrifying story that originated around 2015 and 2016 after two men were hiking in the Catskill Mountains in southeastern New York State. Whilst in the mountains, they came upon an unusual wooden statue in a cave. It had nails in its eyes and a noose around its neck. The statue appeared to be quite old and looked like it had not been in the cave for very long, and someone had recently been there, as there were the remains of a recent fire. One of the men picked up the small wooden statue and decided he would take it home, much to the chagrin of his friend, who said he should leave it there. There were rumours that the location had been used for devil worshippers who would use the area to sacrifice animals and other ritualistic acts. A short time after they returned home, one of the men received a call from his friend, stating that the statue had been doing some weird things, such as moving around the house and giving off a strange odour. He is unable to sleep at night due to banging noises, and one night someone knocked on his door, and when he opened it, nobody was there. His friend is now terrified and believes he has a ghost, and it all began after he brought home the wooden statue. One night his friend turned up at his house around 11:30 p.m. and was in a state of blind terror. His friend said that something is definitely going on because he was now getting constant knocks and banging noises, and was now waking up in the middle of the night feeling someone or something was watching him. He was now waking up every night, and as he sat up, he would pick up a strong smell of pond water. To make matters worse, the statue was now regularly moving from room to room. He first believed his dog was picking it up in its mouth and moving it, and when he showed it to the dog, it was terrified and wouldn't go near it. The dog was so frightened that for the first time, he started peeing in the house. His friend said that last night someone knocked at his door at 3 a.m, but when he opened the door, there was nobody there. His friend was certain that when he picked up the statue that day in the mountains, something followed him home, and he felt he should burn it. His friend told him that he even went to the movies to take his mind off of his fears, and on returning home, felt everything was normal and went to bed. But he was suddenly woken by the sounds of his dog frantically barking, and the awful smell had now permeated the house and smelled even worse. But things got even scarier when he walked out into the hallway and found muddy footprints everywhere, but they were not from shoes, but from bare feet. But his house was securely locked, so how did it get in? When he went to the living room and approached the statue, he could hear raspy type breathing. His friend was now too terrified to stay in the house, where he and his dog were now sleeping in his friend's guest bedroom. His friend wanted them to return the statue where they found it. However, they are scared to return the statue as they do not want to encounter whoever or whatever put it there.